Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this webinar on profile building and early prep. Let me introduce myself. My name is Ninad. I'm the business associate for AcceptU. So AcceptU is the world's largest virtual counseling company. All our counselors are former admissions officers from top colleges in USA. We have, as you know, with post the pandemic, profile building has been a very important and essential part of your college application, and that is the reason we thought uh, we could showcase our webinar with regards to the same. Our managing director, Mrs. Priyanka Bhartiya, is stuck with a flight delay and could not be joining us today. But we have two fantastic students of ours who will be presenting this webinar, Nanika and Sarah. So let me introduce both of them. Sarah Jackson is going to attend the Barnard College this fall. She's a gap year student who took a year off after school to explore her interests independently. She hails from Mysore and is interested in gender studies, English literature, and religious studies. Nanika, on the other hand, is from Hyderabad. Her major is in biology with a specialization in cellular and molecular bio and genetics at the Boston University. She has also got her acceptance from Purdue for chemical engineering. So without much of a delay, let's continue with the webinar. If you have any questions, we'll be allowing you some time at the end of the webinar where you could put in your questions in the chat box below. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone here. We're really grateful that you've taken time out to come here and listen to our perspectives and our journey. So my name is Nanika.
And I'm Sarah. And we'll be starting today with talking about essays because we think that that's a vital part of profile building and planning early planning towards applying to college. So if we can go to the next slide, we can start. Yeah, so when it comes to essays, it's best to begin writing your essays as early as possible. So the way that I did it is that I had my list of schools and I had kind of started to think about how I would write the college specific essay. So most colleges require you to write an essay which is specific to their college. And as you start thinking about writing those essays, it gives you a really deep insight into what exactly that college has to offer you. So whether it be the majors, the subjects, the kind of faculty, the kind of research opportunities they have, the extracurriculars that you can pursue in college. And I think those facts are really important when it comes to choosing your early decision college. And that's why it's always best to start early so that you can choose your best fit. And simultaneously, it allows you to have a more in-depth research into the schools that you're looking to apply to, and therefore you can communicate effectively why exactly you want to join that school, like what it is about that college that really intrigues you and why you want to apply.
Okay. So I think I have similar points, but starting off your essays early gives you way more time to better them, because this way you have an ample amount of time to discuss them multiple times with your counselor and submit the best possible draft. And essays take a lot of time to write and go through, so starting early will definitely give you a head start. I started my essays in the summer before my 11th grade, which was super helpful because I could formulate my themes and ideas way ahead of time, which only left me with edits for the rest of my 2 years in high school. My counselor personally really helped me bring out my true potential and interest through each and every one of my essays. And this was only possible because I let him understand my personality and skills way ahead of time, so he could gradually help me incorporate that in my essays. Colleges, I think Sarah already mentioned this point, but just to continue on it, colleges are attracted to essays which tell them that the student has done their research well and knows why they're applying to these schools, right? To do this, you really have to research every school you're applying to in depth and include that in your essay. Again, this takes a lot of time and you don't want to rush it because then you might miss out on crucial information. So starting off early gives you enough time to properly look into each school. Also, beginning your essays early on will let you focus on other aspects of your application later because you have one component already finished and out of the way. So when you're nearing the end of your college application, stressing over your essays because this is very, very common among applicants. And I personally left my edits for the last minute because I got caught up in my IB submissions, which is when I regretted not finishing my final essay drafts earlier. I think we can go to the next slide now.
Yeah, so networking. I feel like this was one of the most important resources for me, which is like talking to seniors and other people you know who are attending colleges that you want to apply to, because they can actually give you a lot of tips as and like small details about the schools which you can mention in your essays, which otherwise you would have missed out on. And for me, this was very useful because when I was applying to Barnard, they actually had an online virtual interview, which not a lot of schools have, and I didn't really know how I would go about it or what kind of questions they would ask me or what kind of answers they would be expecting in the interview. And and actually through Accept You, I was able to talk to a student who had already been accepted into Barnard, who gave me an extremely useful insight into what the interview is like and who will be interviewing me and etc etc, and that helped me be a lot more prepared to face the interview and just in my overall application. Another thing is that when you're talking to seniors, it's always useful to ask them what they did, like what extracurriculars they did, what some of their passion projects were. Like I remember that one of the seniors that I was speaking to started like an online magazine, and that's kind of where I drew inspiration for some of my own projects. So if you're feeling a little bit lost as to what more you can do to show like something that you're passionate about, like if you're passionate about writing and you want to showcase that in your application, it's useful to take inspiration from seniors. And yeah.
Okay. So colleges almost always have regional admissions officers whose main priority is making their allocated students familiar with their college. So contacting them through emails and getting your questions answered is always a good idea to understand if that particular college is a good fit for you. And doing this early on gives you time to carefully decide whether you want to apply there or not. And if you don't, you have the liberty of researching other schools. And another point I'd like to add is something Accept You actually told all of us, and that is to reach out to these admissions officers during your summer, just to let them know that you're interested in the school, because that's something they'll keep in mind when you're when they read your go through your application, and that's called showing demonstrated interest, and that helps a lot because they know that you've been interested in their school since a while now. Next slide.
So this choosing your major, this is a topic that I mean, I've gotten into my ED school and I still haven't really chosen a solid major. So it just goes to say that you shouldn't be stressing too much about what kind of major you're applying into. It's okay to be unsure or to be undecided. Colleges understand that, especially when you're applying to the US. I think that's one of the advantages that you have, that they don't really expect you to have all the answers. Just follow your gut and do extracurriculars that you're passionate about, like genuinely passionate about, and not just because you think it aligns with a certain major or something. because that's when they can see your actual passion and your actual drive to do something, rather than if you were just doing it for the sake of it or to seem interested in a major that you're not actually interested in. So don't worry too much about it and just follow your instincts when it comes to this part.
I think that's a very valid point because a lot of colleges actually like that students are coming to their schools to explore their interests, and they don't expect every 17, 18-year-old to know what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. But my point kind of just says the opposite, because I think we both have different stories when it comes to our majors. And I believe that there are always three types of applicants. Ones who would like to explore their interests at colleges, like Sarah, ones who know for sure what they will do from day one, and then finally ones who are shuffling between majors every 2 days. And I definitely fell into the last category and had so many different majors I wanted to pursue. But starting my research early gave me so much time to talk to my parents and counselor about which would be the best option for me. And since I had almost a year to talk about my major with my counselor, he was able to help me realize the perfect one because I opened up about my interests and future goals. Sometimes we're not able to choose the most perfect option for us because it can be so overwhelming. But gaining perspective from someone who knows you in this sense, for example, our counselors, makes a huge difference. Next slide, please.
Yeah, so this is where I'm going to be talking about my gap year. So I think what makes me unique as an applicant is that I didn't apply to college when I was in high school at all. Like once I finished 12th grade, that's when it hit me that I wanted to go abroad to pursue my degree, and I was completely unprepared, and I decided to take a year off to kind of figure things out and figure out how to apply to college and what I need to do to work on it. And that's how I became a gap year student. And throughout the course of this time, I basically did projects like independently. I started a club, a nonprofit club, and I published a book along with a few friends of mine. And I think it just goes to say that, like, even if you feel unprepared, don't rush into anything and don't force yourself to do something you're not interested in. Take your time to think about what you want to do and how you want to do it. And I think during the gap year, I accept you was probably my most helpful resource because I was completely honest to them about how prepared I was about the whole application process. So I told my counselor directly that I had no idea how college applications worked, and I had no idea how I was going to apply, or what subjects I wanted to do, or what extracurriculars I had to do, about my test scores, everything. I was quite lost, and you have to be extremely honest with your counselor in order for them to fully help you. And with their help, over the course of I think 6 months, the amount of clarity that I had, I worked on my essays, I worked on my projects. It was such a productive year, and I found out so much more about myself and how my degree was going to be helping me like in the future. So don't be afraid to take risks because there's no conventional path to getting into your dream school. And be completely honest. So those are my biggest tips. Don't be afraid to take a risk in your essay if you're trying to maybe like include something funny, or if you're doing something, you're writing about something unconventional. Don't be afraid to take risks and be completely honest with your counselor so that they can fully help you to their best capacity. I think we can move to the next slide.
Extracurriculars play a huge role in the application process. I believe, especially in the US application process, and I believe that my ECs really set me apart because I thought about them way earlier, which allowed me to spend more time on finding new things to do and also allowed me to analyze each activity and see how I could enhance it. About a year ago, Priyanka ma'am gave me a couple of suggestions about each of my ECs that allowed me to make them even more valuable. And knowing about them like a year ago gave me so much time to put in all of my effort and energy and not rush on just completing them. It's never too early to start activities, to be honest. I founded my NGO in the ninth grade, which has given me about 3 years to build it and expand it. And it turned out to be my most compelling activity, in my opinion. Researching about the available activities opens up more opportunities because a lot of college courses and high school programs have early registration deadlines, and it's always good to be aware of them before time. My counselor has shared so many extracurricular opportunities with me over the 2 year course, and they've made my application so much more interesting. So the last point is one I don't really talk about, but I feel like it is important for all of you to know. Before I even started Accept You, I had a call with Priyanka ma'am where I shared that I had like a fall in my grades for a bit. And I had tears in my eyes because I felt kind of embarrassed. And I'm sure ma'am could see them too because she immediately reassured me that I do not need to worry about my past grades anymore because there's really nothing I can do about it, right? She told me that it won't be a barrier for me and gave me so much courage. And it wasn't a barrier because I did end up getting into my ED college. And grades are definitely very vital for college, um, college applications, which is why I started to bring my focus back again and saw a drastic increase in my grades. And then I realized that looking back at my lower grades is pointless, which is why I decided to focus on the upcoming ones and make my ECs outstanding to make up for that fall in my grades for a short period of time. This was just to tell you guys that you do not need to worry about the past. There's always a way to make up for these fallbacks in your application. If you have the passion for a subject and to pursue it, you can always express it in other ways to the admissions officers for sure. I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, so yeah, I actually applied to Brown as my ED1 college, but ended up not getting in. After this, I was obviously devastated for a bit and also worried because I spent all my time and energy on exploring only one college. So after my rejection, I was completely blank about what I was supposed to do next. But the best part about me applying ED was that I still had around 2 to 3 months to apply for an ED2 college or look into more RD colleges. And here on the slide, I use the word love because to apply through ED2, you really need to connect with the college, and an ED1 rejection leaves you with enough time until the next deadline to do so. This way, you also have more time to love other regular decision colleges too. This merges into my second point about why I chose BU as my ED2 college. So about 6 months ago, I wrote down a list of my expectations from my college experience and then completely forgot about it. But as I did more research after getting rejected from Brown, I slowly started to realize that Boston University encompasses every single one of those points, from having the most specific program for me, to being a large community like I always wanted, and to being in the city with so many of my friends and family. This is when I understood that my ED1 rejection only meant that there is something even better for me. And I was happy to realize this earlier on and not when the college application deadlines are almost coming to an end. So please do not get disheartened by rejection in the future. It's easier said than done, but many alike have had my experience, and you will always end up where you're supposed to be, like Sarah and I are. And applying ED1 and getting rejected only gave me enough time to love BU and apply for ED2 there. So I think that was it from us. Thank you for listening to us, and now we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much, Sarah and Anika, for giving us such a detailed insight into your application process. I would request all the attendees, if you have any questions, you could please add it to your chat below. so that Nanika and Sarah can answer one by one. Okay, we have one. Uh, so, what is the basic research one should do when they are in the 11th grade for colleges? Uh, Nanika, Sarah, any one of you would like to answer this?
I think Nanika.
Yeah, I'll take this because I'm someone who's been doing college research since like the 8th grade. I think
Yeah.
in 11th grade, you should just be familiar with what I did in 11th grade is completely what I wanted to do, sorry, in college in 11th grade is completely different to what I actually applied to. So there's no definitive like thing you can do, but it's just to be familiar with the colleges. So start looking for colleges that you're interested in and maybe start doing extracurriculars in 11th grade. That's the best thing you can do in 11th grade. Do as much of your extracurriculars as you can because you don't have as much time in the 12th grade, especially if you're doing harder curriculums like the IB. So, in my opinion, in the 11th grade, do a lot of your extracurriculars, build on them, and look into colleges. And the best part about doing extracurriculars in your 11th grade is you find out your passions when you work on them, like hands on and with all your time and energy. That's how I discovered what I wanted to do. So, in all honesty, I think the best thing you can do is work on your extracurriculars and look into colleges. And maybe at the end of 11th grade, you can start working on essays. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Nanika. We'll move on to the next one. How much valuable are summer programs for the CV as in the resume? Oh, either one of you would like to answer?
I did not actually take part in any summer programs. But I do think that they can be quite useful, but it depends on what kind of summer program you're doing. So if it's a summer program where you've applied and you've been selected from a pool of applicants, that definitely reflects better on your application compared to whether it was probably like a paid summer program where you don't really get a specific grade or there's no real application process. I mean, you could probably mention it, but it wouldn't add much value. And there are also paid summer programs where you have to work on a project through the program and they give you a final grade at the end. And if you're able to secure a good grade in those, again, it can have a positive impact on your application. So think of it in a very rational way and think of how what kind of summer program would add value to your application, and then you can go for it. And definitely it'll be a good experience for you as well. So there's no harm.
Yeah, and I also think that doing summer courses and programs is really attractive to college admissions officers because they know that you're spending your summer break on something useful and productive rather than not having anything listed during your summer. Because I personally did something for all 4 years of my high school in summer, and they were all productive because during summer we don't really have anything to study for. So I could spend my time in um, a unique way. And as Sarah said, getting into a program is much more valuable than just paying for something. And I think this is where counselors come into play because I had a lot of summer courses I was interested in, but Priyanka ma'am and my counselor Brad actually helped me refine them and choose those which are actually prestigious or actually add value to my application.
Great. Thanks, Sarah and Nanika. We'll move to the next one. How do we know what colleges to apply to, and how to know which would be the best choice?
I think this is where early prep comes into play. So to figure out what colleges you want to apply to, you need to do a lot of research, not just on colleges in general, but also you have to have insight into yourself. Like, what are you looking for in a college? Do you want to be in a small place, or do you want to be surrounded by a lot of students where you have like a huge community? Do you want to be in a city? Do you want to be in a small town? So you need to know yourself very well in order to understand what kind of colleges you want to apply to. And once you do, you can just use, I think, like, now we're so well connected. All you have to do is Google um, colleges in the US, and you'll be presented with a list. And as you keep digging, it's just more and more information that you keep getting. And it takes time, but that's how you start off. And eventually, you will end up with a good list of 8 schools that you're really confident that you want to apply to.
Perfect. We'll move on to the next one. How important are internships for college applications?
I think I can take this one. Internships, in my opinion, are important. If see, all your extracurriculars don't really need to align with your major. Your extracurriculars are actually supposed to give an overall insight of you and show that you're a well-rounded individual. But my internships, for example, had a lot to do with my major, because mine is a very specific major, and school we don't really have opportunities to express in it. So this is why and internships are so important for your extracurriculars, because if you put something like volunteering, a lot of people have the same extracurricular over the world, and probably every applicant does. So internships show that you can go out, or even at home, honestly, you can do an online internship. They just show that you have the ability and the willingness to actually gain experience, and it also counts as work experience in some ways. Not all of the internships do, but some of them actually do. And it shows college admissions officers that you want to put your knowledge to test or to work. So in my opinion, internships are really, really helpful, because you can also get a letter of recommendation from the people who looked over your internship, and that will tell college admissions officers what you actually did, and that you actually uh, step forward to take this initiative. So internships are very important, because it's way different from the other kind of extracurriculars you can do, which are something you do at your home or individually, but internships you work with people in the professional field, which is very important.
Perfect. Great. Thank you, Nanika. We'll take a last question now. How to research for colleges when you have a vague idea about what you want to pursue? Either one of you could answer this.
I think the most useful, I mean, if you know what kind of subjects you want to pursue, I think one of the things that you could do is just go to Google and search best colleges for so and so, whatever field you want to study, and you will end up with some kind of a list. And from there, you can go and Google each college, and they have their own websites, and they have blogs, and then they have so many resources online where you can go and read what they have to offer, how they teach you, what kind of faculty they have, and that can really give you a good idea as to which colleges are good for what subject you want to study.
Great. Perfect, Sarah. I would request all the other attendees, if you have any further questions, you could please reach out to us on the number you see on the screen. You could email us on india@acceptyou.com. Please follow us on our social media pages, Accept You India as well as Accept You on Facebook. We provide webinar resources and resources for students who are applying to colleges. You could always reach out for a free consult and we could schedule one for you.
Thank you for having.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank you. Thank
you.
you so much, Sarah. Thank you, Nanika, for being a part of this webinar. You have presented it pretty well, and all the best to both of you.
Thank you so much. And good
Thank
luck
you
to
so much.
everyone else here too.
Good luck to all the applicants.
Thank you. Great. Good evening, everyone. Bye-bye.